I try to just think like a kid. A kid doesn't ever focus on what they're missing, what they're losing out on. They just focus on what they want to do. Be open-minded, have independent thinking, realise where your truths come from. I feel like parkour was the urban form of the rebellion and wanting to conquer our surroundings. As a human, we want to feel comfortable in our surroundings and environment.
Here he comes, Tim Shieff.
I got last man standing.
Okay.
Can't call it one. I got the furthest.
This is a warrior. Boom. Strength and power. Boom.
I don't need to go anymore. I'm a vegan, look at what I can do, look how strong I am as a vegan. I just do what I do, and then that's something people realise. And they go, oh, he's vegan as well. And that's sort of more of a subtle message, but you let people find it for themselves.
Timothy Shieff, just extraordinary.
It's not about being competitive, it's about being the best you. That's what veganism's about. We don't see cows or chickens or fish, we don't see them as victims, we don't see it from their perspective, we only ever see what we're missing if we were to give that up. Running is going to lead me to something more beautiful. I have full faith in that. And the running community is a very mindful community. It's a real natural connection that comes with that, of letting our body that I created, design, do what it's designed to do. You know, I'd follow the flow of the trails and run the mountains and just witness and just appreciate and just feel that flow. Then your body's just doing what it was almost fundamentally designed to do. There's a real calming feeling that comes with that, and it's a beautiful thing. I think I'm moving more and more to the mountains. I think that's my calling. I think I've done cities and now I, you know, step back on the message and just go live.
I have a long, beautiful history with Mr. Timothy Shieff. I still remember meeting him in a cafe in Shoreditch when he had short hair and he was a quiet parkour athlete, and talking to him about his first interview on London Real. He subsequently guest hosted with me with such great people such as Jason Silva and Bruce Perry of the BBC documentary Tribe. Tim has been on my journey with movement expert Kelly Starrett, and it was just amazing to sit down with Tim for the third time ever and find out where he is on his journey. The thing about Tim is, Tim lives his life in the moment, true to himself. Tim doesn't sell out. Tim doesn't change what he does in order to make a paycheck. And that's what I think is so beautiful about Tim, and I think that's why he's been able to evolve so quickly, so fast. If I look at the last 3 years, it's like what most people would take 15 years to do when it comes to their evolution. And when I've seen Tim go into full veganism and become the vegan prince and really the spokesman for that movement, and to take all the hits and all of the hardship and to move away from the parkour community, another difficult thing to do, and to move into his current passion, which is running and outdoor running. And it's something he's very, very passionate about. And we talked about all of this on the show, including his theories as far as that the earth is flat, something as an MIT-trained engineer I can't agree with, but we had a wonderful debate nonetheless. And again, what I love about Tim is he's authentic and he's true to himself in the moment, and he will always be his own man. And I think that's something very special, and that's why I will continue to have him on London Real for years to come, because I think it's something we all need to remember, that we need to really be ourselves at all times and be okay with being congruent to how you feel in that moment. And a lot of people have been asking me recently, you know, what is London Real all about, Brian? What are you actually trying to do? And it's a great question because it makes me think about why I do what I do. And what I do every week when I strap myself in with the guest chair with all of these fascinating people from around the world is I look for something in their lives that can inspire us, some moment of greatness that they had that came through struggle. And I try to distill that down into a few words or an idea or something that triggers in your brain and gets you to actually do something about it. And I've managed to gather 1,000 people from around the world in what we call the London Real Academy. And we are those same people, but we decided to take it to the next level. And we get together through social media, through live meetups, through online coursework, through live Zoom video calls with me every month, and we push ourselves. We actually achieve things. We set out goals and we're accountable to them. And I think that's what makes the difference in this life. We have such a precious amount of time on this earth, and we can't just sit around and wait for things to happen. We have to actually take action. And that's what the Academy is all about, and I put together a little bit of a video about it. Check it out.
The entrepreneurial journey, it can be a lonely road. I push myself in so many areas, but you know, you can't do it all yourself.
The thing about the Academy is, it's like, look, you have the ideas, you have the ability, you have the skill, and you have the sort of ambition for yourself. But when you have a group of people pulling you forward, it's so important.
Accountability is what's missing from most of the programs or any gurus or any internet mentor that I had before.
I wanted to get some accountability. I wanted to make myself accountable to a group, to you.
The reason we started the Academy is because I felt like we were doing these amazing talks, like we'd have a Peter Sage episode or a Dan Pena episode or a Kala or someone, and you get super inspired, and then YouTube stops, and then you go back to your life and you don't make any changes. And it was just like, it felt like, what are we doing? If you're designing your life right, the good times are now. And in a few years, you'll look back and say, wow, that was amazing.
The thing about the Academy is it has so many different sort of layers to it. I think your web seminars are awesome. The way you broke it down and the style of your teaching is pretty awesome.
I like the feed. When I have to motivate myself, I kind of look at others struggling and getting over those struggles. So I actually follow daily the feed.
Best feature would be the sort of Facebook aspect of it, the social media aspect of it, as in creating a profile with your goals, your dreams.
Everyone's on the same vibe, and we may be at different stages in our journeys, but everyone's on the same page at the end of the day. Everyone's really trying to push themselves and building the best you. It really resonates with me.
And the fact that I'm committing a small amount of money, and the fact that I'm actually trying to interact with those people, means that I'm invested and means that I will keep it for the long run.
You have to be serious about yourself and what you want to achieve. And if you're serious about yourself, this is going to be such a fantastic platform.
London Real, sponsored by Bulletproof. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Timothy Shieff, the world freerun champion, Ninja Warrior UK last man standing, long distance runner, highly vocal vegan. You had your London Real debut here 3 years ago, and you since co-hosted the show with epic guests like Jason Silva, Kelly Starrett, Bruce Perry over the years. All powerful moments in my mind. Timothy, welcome back to London Real.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Dude, it's awesome having you here. One thing about you is you evolve like almost at the speed of light. You know, I think I look back at like pictures of you from our first episode, the short hair, and then over the years, and like, dude, it seems like you evolve like 3 or 4 times faster than normal humans. And you're always like trying new things, new perspectives, new ideas, pushing yourself. Do you notice that about yourself as well?
I think I get caught up in it, but when I look back and I have chances, and it's great that we managed to capture something that I can look back on, I certainly notice some growth. But at the same time, I still feel like the same person. You know, always being, always becoming, as a Buddhist quote.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You've been traveling to Asia a lot
Yeah.
more, right?
Yeah, Hong Kong and Thailand mainly.
And that's over the last few years. Like, you hadn't really spent a lot of time there before.
Yeah, I guess since we talked, I discovered Hong Kong as sort of a beautiful balance of East and West, and people don't realise how much of nature there is in Hong Kong. They think it's just a big giant city, which it is, but you can drive 30 minutes and be in the middle of Jurassic Park country, and you feel like the most remote person. It's great. And they drive on the left, and they have English plug sockets.
Right.
So it feels very...
My mom took me to Hong Kong when I was 15, and I remember like negotiating for electronics there. And that city, it does my head, and it's for me, it's ultra urban, and I've never figured it out.
But
Maybe
if you get beyond that,
then
30 minutes, Sai Kung Country Park, and it's just remote beaches, beautiful, like trails and everything.
Okay. I remember you and me having a coffee at, I think, that Eat restaurant in Old Street, and we had to meet before you came on the show because you weren't like, I don't know who these guys are. And at the time, you were Tim the parkour guy, and I think and you were just on like a music video. You were doing a little bit of acting, and I think you were just starting to talk to me about like about voicing your own opinions more and things like that. And I was just wondering how your life has changed since then. I mean, you're no longer the parkour guy. Do people even associate you with parkour, or there's so many new things that you're doing now?
I think I still get mostly associated. The parkour guys, sort of wheels that I set in motion 10 years ago, and so that's still in motion, but somewhat ending and slowing down now. And I'm moving more into sort of the vegan athlete, and I try and sort of be a relatable human. Yeah.
And you were running a lot the last year.
That's what I discovered, was running. Something I did, it was when I was a kid in a playground. I was always the fastest kid. I would win a sports day every year. And then I remember the first time I ever got beat running. We raced against another school at some like district meet, and I got beat, and that was when I let go of running. I was like, I'm not the best in the world anymore, because when you're a kid you think you're the best in the world, and then you meet at something, then you meet someone. And I let it go, played soccer, football, so it's in my head now.
You were born in America, that's why.
So I get away with it. Then breakdancing, and that took up a massive part of my life. I just loved any sort of body control. Then saw parkour, felt like a sort of 3D version of breakdancing, and I did that for many years, became successful, and sort of conquered that mountain, so to speak. And I get bored easily. I always thought, everything I've done, I've thought this is me for life. Breakdancing, parkour, and it's funny how life flips it on you, and I realised you have only got one life, so keep it moving and try. I'm very intuitive, and I'm starting to trust my intuition more and more and more as I get older. So as my sort of love for parkour faded, it wasn't because it was just I was bored of it. It was because there was this new thing that I was attracted to, which is what I always did as a kid, was running. And it's a very simple thing, and not running that we associate with putting on active wear and going to the park and doing an hour of something you don't want to do. That's what we associate that with now. Jogging, it's something we have to do to stay fit, to keep up for the bad diet that we've got, to make up for that. But just the running like a child that's in the playground, that they run for no reason. And it's not quite at that stage yet where I'm just plodding about, but I've sort of, as I've shifted more towards going back to nature and mountains, I feel like parkour was the urban form of the rebellion, and wanting to conquer our surroundings. As a human, we want to feel comfortable in our surroundings and environment. Well, I certainly do, maybe not every human, but the ones that are driven to parkour are the ones that want to feel comfortable and feel like sort of boxed in by the city. So I want to stand on top of a building and I feel like, oh cool, I'm in control of this body and this city. I know where I'm at, and I feel comfortable, like the king chimp in the zoo or in the forest, jungle, whatever. And going back to running and discovering running, and I go out to nature and trails and mountains, I feel the same feeling. And then when you're running down the mountain for an hour or whatever it takes you, and you're just letting gravity or whatever do its work, and your feet are just tapping away, and it's not as taxing on the heart and lungs, and your body's just emotion. It's sort of like, parkour is great visually, and you make videos, you do tricks, and you go, wow, my body did that motion, it did that flip. Not many people's bodies can do that, that's cool. But running isn't something that looks visually attractive, it's just very intrinsic, and when I'm doing it, I just feel, it's how I feel. With parkour, you don't feel amazing when you feel all right when you're doing it in the control, but it's not like a continuous stream of this simple joy. But when you're running down a mountain, and your body's just doing what it was almost fundamentally designed to do, there's a real calming feeling that comes with that, and it's yeah, beautiful thing.
And just the distance running thing isn't really what you want to pursue. Does it really want to be terrains?
Trail running.
Okay, because you did like 100K run.
From London to Brighton I ran,
Okay.
100 kilometers.
Did you learn that you don't want to do things like that, or?
No, that's cool, because that's mostly on trail. You don't realise that there's a trail that goes all the way from London to Brighton. You think it's just the road, the carriageway, whatever.
Right.
But there's a trail the whole way down. People don't know about it. It goes across the backs of loads of beautiful fields. There's some good views. It's not as mountainous as some of the runs I like to do, but certainly it's a nice jog to the coast from London.
And so you like the terrain stuff?
More terrain is more appealing.
So when I flew to Cape Town like 10 years ago, the day I got there, we were renting a place in like Camps Bay, which overlooks the water, and I saw this, I think they call it Simba. It's like this kind of mountain structure that looks like a lion or something. Yeah. And I got there, I was with my girlfriend, and I'm like, I'm gonna be back, I'm gonna go for a run. And I ran until I saw that thing in the distance, and I ran, and once I got there, I ran to the top. I came back like 6 hours later, because she didn't know the city. It's known for crime. She was crying. She had like called the landlord, and they were searching for me. But like I had to get up to the top of that thing, and there's actually chains and things to get to the top. It's not crazy, but
it was an inner calling for you.
Yeah, and I just needed to be there. I needed to own that environment in a new place, and just to see it and feel it. And then every day after that, I ran up to Table Mountain, and I found different routes all the way up every single day. And like you said, it was way up there, but then like I knew like within 2 hours I could get there, and like every morning it was powerful.
And how did you feel those days?
Awesome. Connected me to
connected,
yeah, and it connected me to a land I knew nothing about, Africa.
You learned the terrain,
and but it was amazing. Like I felt really one with the environment in a way I probably don't feel with a city like London.
Well, you're taking up the movement stuff, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
So that's giving it you that. That's giving you can hang on things, you can know what's comfortable.
Yeah, I'm doing that, but I guess I'm not really owning my environment. Because it's weird, in this jungle, in this city, there's all these beautiful buildings, and we see a new high-rise every day, but you're not allowed to go there, right? Because that's someone else's property. And you're not allowed even to climb on a few basic buildings. You're not supposed to do that, right? You've been arrested for doing that.
That was sort of part of a climate march.
Okay, right.
But I agree, you're not supposed to, but again, it's a pigeon can go up there, why can't I go up there? You know, like if I'm not doing no harm to anyone, and it's just for my experience, and then, but yeah, that's the world we live in.
Right. Talk to me about moving on from parkour. I mean, it's hard for you because there's a whole community that loves you and wants you. You know, for a while you were doing a whole YouTube channel, and like you were making a living and producing lots of content. And you said you got to trust your gut, but like so many things are like pulling you back in. What's the line from Godfather 3? Like, every time I try to get out, they drag me back in.
Yeah.
Was it hard to break away from parkour?
That's funny that you said that, because you notice when you come to a crux in your life with two decisions, the old choice, suddenly new options that weren't there before appeal to test you. And I notice this is the way the universe works. Like you're looking at a new job, and when you're about to make the decision to do it, you'll see the old one will offer you this new thing in many scenarios. But I try to just think like a kid. A kid doesn't ever focus on what they're missing, what they're losing out on. They just focus on what they want to do. And so that is what I want to do. That will lead me somewhere. Going back to like the Steve Jobs quote that everyone knows about, going forward you couldn't see the route, but going back you can see the bullet points that led to where. I have full faith in that. Running is going to lead me to something more beautiful. And the running community is a very mindful community. I'm drawn to sort of spiritual, mindful communities, which is obviously part of veganism. I was drawn to that. And parkour was at the time and when my vibration was a great community for me to be at, childish and creative and fun, and sort of not caring about what people's opinions of you jumping around their structures and that are. And this is sort of an evolution to another community that's even more mindful than that, because there's still certainly a radicalness within that. Not that I'd ever, I still think it's an incredible thing and it's great for children to do that. We just need to support it in a better way. But yeah, the community in running is such a beautiful, calm community. They all run for hours a day. Right. That makes people peaceful. Calm. Yeah, they're calm, and that sort of attracts me as well.
Also, less video capture shots and publishes as opposed to parkour, right?
Yeah, although I'm sort of can't turn that off in me. Like I feel like there's a huge gap in the market, especially trail running, in capturing these in beautiful ways. The only ones that really do it, Solomon Running, they make great, beautiful trail running videos, but that's a brand. There's no one that sort of. There's a couple of individuals on YouTube, but no one that's really captured. And there's so much terrain to capture.
Right.
I just went to Wales the other day and I couldn't believe how beautiful it is. And we just think Snowdon's, oh, that's just a small mountain in our back garden. We should go to Kilimanjaro or something. No, that's Snowdon. Go to Snowdon.
Snowdon's
If you've not
good,
been,
huh?
it's amazing.
I've heard great things.
Go to Snowdon.
I haven't been. I've
Don't
never
do the
been to
main
Wales.
path, but to find another path if you're healthy. Do the Watkins path. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Watkins Snowdon.
path. Yeah.
Okay. So, but filming that stuff's hard, right? Because typically it would take a crew and all that stuff before the drone technology.
Yeah, it's getting better with GoPros.
Borrow my
and
drone
things
if you want.
Yeah, but now drones are coming out. I think we're going to see an elevation in those videos, and they're going to help draw us out of cities and back to our natural environment.
Okay. What about you when you go that running route? Like you know, part of your business was that parkour. Do you just leave that behind and you're like, whatever happens, happens? Or do you have your kind of business sorted, or is that not that important?
It's relevant, but I have a faith in life, and it's sort of paid off till now, and I'm sure it will continue as my faith grows stronger with that stuff. But as I say, there's a tapering off period where I'm still occasionally doing parkour jobs, but I'm building. And I've always been sowing seeds anyway, and so I've started a clothing company, Ethics and Antics, a sort of ethical clothing company, and that's doing great for me. Not like solid on my feet with it, but it's set a base for me where I'm watching that grow and I'm tending to that. And while other things are changing, I feel like that's a nice base for me to always have that, and that's something I could run from not living in London with a high rent price.
Right. Tell me about Ethics and Antics. I had Made in Chelsea star Oliver Proudlock in here a couple weeks ago, and he's a proper fashion designer. He's got a label called Serge Denim, and I really like that dude. He doesn't just sit around sipping champagne. And we made fun a little bit of the show because the show is the show, and he's actually walked away from the show now. But whatever. Regardless, I know a lot of people love it.
Man.
Yeah, it's entertainment. And
I watch Geordie Shore. People don't know that about me.
That's cool, man.
It's fascinating just witnessing people.
Right? I used to watch some Jersey Shore back in the day.
Yeah.
It is fascinating. And I must say, with Made in Chelsea, they do film it in this kind of weird way, what looks like a film. And it's actually, for me as a filmmaker, I'm always wondering, like, how do they film that in that live?
There's art to it. There's a craft to it being that appealing to watch. Yeah.
There is. And so we talked about him starting a label and just how difficult it is, and actually his label, he wanted to get to denim always, but it's taken him like 4 years to even scale up to where he could even afford to invest in denim. So what's it like starting a clothing brand? Tell me more about yours. Yeah, because I hear I'm sure it's hard. It's almost like an organic coffee shop. Like everybody wants to do it, which must make the space crowded. Margins must be tricky. What's it like?
Ethics and Antics was sort of brand that came about from my YouTube. It sort of coined what I'm about. I'm about being ethical, but not giving up all the antics and playfulness around as well. And I saw a gap in the market. I didn't like see a gap and go, I'm a businessman, I'm going to jump in there. But it sort of appealed to me that a lot of vegans wear T-shirts that just say vegan, or they're really slanderous or sort of negative. Like they're trying to instill a message on someone in the negative way, and I wanted to be subtle with it so that a vegan could recognize it as a fellow vegan, but to other people that are around you, if you're getting the tube in London and it says vegan on your chest, people might be like, oh, another vegan trying to voice their opinion. So I wanted something that was sort of a subtle wink at other vegans, but other people didn't know, so they could converse. So the first shirt I released said Nagiv, which is vegan backwards.
Okay.
And it said for the Slamina, which is animals backwards, and it's sort of playful one, and then from there, it did all right, and I realised there's a hole in the market. And my friend JME, a UK grime artist, is vegan. He used the word vegang. He said vegan, now I see clearer. And it's sort of vegan was kind of a cool way of saying vegan, but feeling like part of a collective. So I released another shirt. I've got a great friend who's a great designer on this stuff, and my flatmate who's a vegan chef. We collaborate, and we make sure all our clothing sourced fully ethically, fair trade, fair wear, organic cottons, earth positive, all this stuff, and we sort of just manage it between ourselves, and it's just been beautiful because we go to the vegan festivals around England and we sell online to all over the world, and the vegan community's really took to it. They're such a supportive community, and we've branched out and we've done Ethics and Antics supper clubs now, and we're going to do movie nights to show like documentaries and things like that, and it's just something that I gave a little bit of time to, and it's like I was so focused on parkour, but I've grown so much since I did parkour, and sort of you get fixed on who you were at the beginning of that. And for me to go, oh, this is the new me. I had a parkour clothing brand, Storm, and this is the new me. Let's work on this and tend to this, and it's just more in alignment with who I am now. And so I'm watching it flourish better than before. You have to sort of move on from things we don't realise. So I think someone on the show said we outgrow our clothes as kids, but we don't outgrow friends and jobs and things like that. We've got to learn to swap these about.
Yeah.
When we outgrow them. Yeah.
You have to keep growing, but it's tricky because most of the people
to notice
around
what
you,
around you, what else needs to grow around you,
Yeah, and most people aren't ready for you to grow. You know, it usually freaks most people out because they're probably friends with you because they like the you they met originally.
You have to let go of friends, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, it is true. It's hard.
But if you were to define those people, you wouldn't define them as actual friends. If you define friends by actions, and they're not supporting you and they're judging you because they've always known this previous you, then they're not really friends anymore.
Yeah.
They're just an old acquaintance.
I don't even know. A friend, I think, is people have this, you know, this whole concept of friends are for life. It's just, I just don't think that's true either. And so it's just this moment in time, you have this organic relationship that has a life, and then it's going to be over.
We're all expanding in different directions, and we cross for a brief period, and then
and that's okay. And I find that people that live a lot of people with problems and depression and this, maybe it's because they can't just realize that these things are fluid, and that's okay. And I mean, I've had people that I was just like, this is going to be my boy until the day we die. And then like 10 years later, we just have different lives. And you can be like, oh, why isn't it the way it used to be? But it's like, you got it. It's okay.
But the new friends you make,
exactly.
those connections feel more realer than the last because you feel like you're more fulfilled than who you were previous. And this person is equally fulfilled to you. And that's what you sort of align yourself up with, similar, you say, wavelengths, right?
Yeah.
People with the same vibe.
That's why you have to stay open and constantly express yourself because you're a new person all the time. So.
And you get caught up with old people, and I do it the same when I'm at home. I act like a 12-year-old kid because my mum treats me like a 12-year-old kid, and we see each other as we always were at that age, kind of thing. So it's like we have friends, and I'll react to a situation the way I used to 3 years ago, but with these other friends, I'm reacting differently to the same situation because I've grown and they've enabled me to grow, and their perception of me, you never know if their perception of you is sort of making you react like that because you can see that they're judging you that way, and it's a bad cycle, isn't it?
It's complicated, right?
You see it though? You get it?
I get it though. Talk to me about veganism. What from the very core of it, like a total bird's eye perspective, you know, when you think about that whole idea, where do you start?
The animals. If that bulldog was real and you wanted some ribs tomorrow and I said, okay, let's kill him, not a single human in the Western world would be okay with that. But a pig, we see it as not worthy of the same treatment, the same love. I'm not saying it deserves to be wandering around a house, but you know that would suffer, and you know just as well the pig will suffer equally to killing either. And yet we make a decision that supports that because our parents did, and because of tradition. And you know, some people are ready to acknowledge, and certainly since the first time we ever talked, you must have seen the rise of veganism. It's not just a dietary choice; it's a real lifestyle, and it's growing, and people are starting to come around to it. People are starting to, first and foremost, they're starting to try vegan food and realising it's not rabbit food, and they go, actually, you know, my friend had some vegan sausages the other day, and he said, oh, if it tastes just as good and it's doing less harm to the planet and it's better for me, oh, I'm going to do it then. And it was as simple as that, and that's what it is. You can get food that tastes just as good, it's better for the planet, it's better for you, and as you said, first and foremost, there's no victims. We just don't see victims. That's the real issue, is we don't see cows or chickens or fish. We don't see them as victims. We don't see it from their perspective. We only ever see what we're missing if we were to give that up. But you don't see that fish when you pull it on the fisherman pulling the fish out of the water has the same indifference as the guy in China killing the dogs. But we're not going to judge the fisherman because we just don't care for the fish. We don't see them as equal victims. But for the fish, there's a being in there. Maybe there isn't. Maybe it's nothing. It's just a robot in God's creation, whatever. But maybe there's a being there that we can perceive when we see animals. We can see they suffer. That's going around, suffocating, flapping around. You can see this person with a hook been tricked out of the water, and we're so indifferent to that.
When did you first start noticing this? Because you said you've been vegan since 2012.
Yeah.
So when we first spoke, you were vegan.
Yeah.
You weren't talking about it so much. When did it start to click for you?
Once you see it, it really opens up to you.
Okay.
Once you start to and when you have the experience more, a year into veganism, 2 years, 3 years now, I'm healthier than ever, feeling younger than ever, and I'm going, how are we still doing this? We all, at least most people now, acknowledge that there's no point, that vegans are just as healthy. On the BBC the other day there was a documentary and they admitted that vegans live the longest out of any lifestyle choice. On the BBC they finally got around to admitting this, and it's cool. So you acknowledge...
Your average person probably wouldn't agree with that.
Yeah, but that was the statistics.
Yeah.
yeah, people might not agree with that.
UFC fighters, not many vegan UFC fighters. A few.
There's a few.
Few.
Yeah.
Because this has been debated for a while. Like I've known a few of them, and people have talked about the pros and cons and that kind of thing.
For people that care about peak performance, I'm not the guy to say this is better for peak performance or this, but I'm caring about peak person, peak human being. We all are against creating needless suffering. You against animal cruelty?
Yes.
Just where we draw the line of what's cool to an animal is different, because you'll happily pay someone to kill a cow so that you can eat his ribs. But you just don't, so you see that's, people that aren't vegan see that as okay, or people go, okay, you know what, you're right, but I've got this addiction, and that's fine. If people have, you know, tradition, habit, and they can't get out of it, and they go, you know what, Tim, or vegans, I can see that animals don't need to suffer and you guys are perfectly healthy, but I'm just struggling with my own demons here. I wake up in the morning, I want that bacon sandwich. I go, okay, that's fine, that's your struggle, dude. But if it's the people that go, no, it's not the healthiest, it's not as good for the planet, and there's living in fear, supporting suffering to another being, and then if they want to do that to validate them as an athlete, fair enough, they're living in a, you know, very tunnel-headed. I've got to be, I wouldn't say Usain Bolt go vegan, but I'm not saying it's going to make him a faster runner. So that's for him to get older and then realise, you know, running wasn't everything in life. There's more to life than just being the best athlete on the planet.
You're making your decision for peak spirituality and oneness with yourself. An athlete that's making peak performance, they might make other decisions, including a performance-enhancing drug might be something that gets them there, that goal, right? How have you found your journey the last couple of years? You stick yourself right on the front line of veganism, and that's what Timothy Shieff does, sticks him on the front line of anything you do, and I respect that. But what's that been like, being on the front line? What's it been like with dealing with other vegans around the world on the front line? What's it been like?
It's interesting. And you get ridiculed a bit, but generally it's the most rewarding thing, because I'll get recognised around London for being vegan, and people will just say, thank you so much for what you do. And there's not a better thing for me that you could be acknowledged for than for me, it's a selfless choice. I'm doing it for the animals, and yet people can know you for that. If I was recognised on the street because I was in Made in Chelsea, you might get all sorts of people that come up to you, because any sorts of people be watching that show, and you could get abused, you could get nice people, but at the end of the day, you're on a TV show watching your life. But I'm trying to promote some things, and I'm making a sacrifice because people in my community disrespected the fact that I was so openly vegan, and that it was a choice I made. But the rewards are there from the people around the community. As a vegan athlete, they love it. The vegan community love it. When an athlete comes over and says, yeah, I'm going to be vegan and try that out, I can see that it's a great choice. And so I've had it's been nothing but rewarding for me.
Okay. Your clothing brand, Ethics and Antics, you go kind of in a cheeky side way around talking about veganism.
Yeah.
Vegans typically suffer from a bit of a PR problem, as in, all the jokes and all that stuff. And I made them too, but let's talk about it. I mean, some people find it overtly, difficult because people get their views posted on them. Is that a natural course of the outrage of what's happening core to veganism? Or do you think in the earlier days it started off with people that were just like, we're going to change the world now? Or do you think that's a bad thing?
Yeah, there's certainly many approaches to promoting it, and there's a lot of people. I think that people don't realise as a quote someone said, the medium is the message. So when you see a vegan and they're just shouting, irate, protesting, you see that person, you go, I don't want to be like them, so I'm not going to relate to their message. And vegans don't realise that. They get agitated, they see animals suffering, and they feel that build up inside them. They go, I've got to do something about that to feel content in myself. So then they go out on the street and they picket and they protest, and they make videos on YouTube, and they post on their Facebook every day, this video. And you've got to realise all that other people see is you as an angry person, and they don't want to be that angry person. So I've sort of refined my approach now. In situations where someone comes to me and they'll ask me questions, I'm going to be honest with my opinions and my beliefs and with the truth. But I'm not out in the streets protesting, sharing loads of negative videos, showing what goes on. I'm sort of trying to just show a positive, happy, relatable human that people go, look, he's just doing that and he's living that life. That's cool. They can associate. People can fill in the lines for themselves. I don't need to go anymore. I'm a vegan, look at what I can do, look how strong I am as a vegan. I just do what I do, and then that's something people realise. And they go, oh, he's vegan. And that's sort of more of a subtle message, but you let people find it for themselves. And as I say, the medium is the message, and I think more vegans need to realise that we act on this agitation too much, and this anger. That makes me angry. To release that, we've got to go inside ourselves. That's that ego flaring up. We've got to go, what's the smart approach to this? If I really want to make a change on the planet, how do I go about doing it? You know, and one approach, which I found that I like, is to be gentler with it, unless people come to me, and then I'll give them the truth.
Right, and your approach has changed, because 2 years ago you kind of were like, I'm the vegan, look at me, I'm still an athlete.
Yeah.
You guys.
And that was also stepping into that world, and that was what other vegans put on you is, oh, Peter wanted to do a video, let's make you look like a strong athlete and a vegan, so I sort of joined with them and do that, but I'm sort of seeing other approaches work just as good anyway.
I was listening to an interview with Russell Simmons, founder of Def Jam Records, right? And he's very serious vegan. I think he just came out with a book, and you know, he really dives into this whole thing.
The Happy Vegan.
The Happy Vegan, yeah. And he really dives into this. Obviously, he's a very well-known guy, also big into his meditation as well. And he really talks into like this outright cruelty that's going on with these animals. And I don't know if he said it or not. He's black as well, but is it something like the way we'll look at slavery in 100 years, what we were doing now? Is it
100%.
Is it exactly like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, exactly,
Okay.
I can't say exactly, because I can comprehend why we don't treat, like how effed up it was to treat a human that way.
Yeah.
And that animals are somewhat different to humans, but our kids will be like, what the fuck were you doing, Dad? You know, how could you eat an animal? It will get to that level. I see it as sort of the trifecta as black rights, women's rights, animal rights. All beings that can suffer, that are victims that we didn't see as victims at the time. We didn't see women as victims, that they were being oppressed. We just saw what we were missing out on, or what we would lose if they were to have the equal rights to us. Same with slaves. We don't see the life that they had to live through their eyes, the feelings they had to feel when they're being whipped and all this stuff. We never felt that. It was a disconnect. And now with animals, we feel the same disconnect. We don't see the victim. We don't see what they're going through, and that our actions are needless, and that it's a choice that doesn't need to happen.
In the news right now in Georgetown University in the States is this whole thing where they had actually at one point sold some slaves to the South to keep the university alive, and otherwise it wouldn't be there. And it's like happened in like 1850s or 1840s, and you're like, it's like not that long ago.
Yeah.
But you would think there's just such a disconnect. You could see the disconnect where it's like, okay, these people do these things, and we do these things, and this is the way it is. But the only way it was that way is because that's the way your parents told you the way it is. And then at some point, people had a shift, and then it's like, no, we don't do that anymore. But 200 years ago, it was normal.
We've all still got racist grandparents, right?
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, big chunks of the United States, specifically the South, that racism just carries over in the geography and the way things
because
are
they've not been integrated with other people so much, and they've not seen that, oh, we're all just humans and we're all going through the same struggles and we're not that different. And
So, all right, you think it'll be evolving like that someday?
Just with animals, yeah, because we already sort of acknowledge it, and we're all mad at the girl that hunted the lion or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And the doctor that hunted the dentist that hunted the lion.
Do you disagree with hunting?
I mean, on a fundamental level, 100%. But I can, if someone says I'm only going to eat meat animals that I hunt myself, I go, you know what, dude, be my guest. Like,
okay,
it's better than what the rest of them are doing, you know. And then we'll get around to this after.
Okay, so it's progress.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I hear that, you know, hunting, I keep hearing, I want to hunt actually, is that there is this kind of deep spiritual connection with the animal. If you go hunt a deer and you kill it and then you eat it and you just have this kind of respect, I know that makes you want to laugh because you're killing another animal, right? But on the same way,
I can understand
it might be a step, you know, to making that connection. They're not going to make.
At least you're feeling it.
If they order venison in the restaurant.
Yeah, at least you stare in the face after you've done what you've chosen to do, and it's your choice to do it.
Right.
Not just a disconnected, like hitman, paying some hitman to do it. Yeah, again. Yeah, I understand there's a, like, genetically within us, there's that man that wants to go through these experiences, and it's like the trail running, and it's like that. It's like something from our past. It's nostalgic for us, like deep within us, and so, I can't tell a human not to feel that human feeling.
And I think there's something carnal in me that would, if I was hungry and I see a fish in the stream, I want to go eat it. So there is something there. I feel like acting on as well.
Yeah, if you only ever ate fish that you could catch like that, then
and that'd be okay.
You'd be a lot more economical.
Talk to me about movies. Cowspiracy came out. I hadn't seen it. I saw the guys talking on Rogan. I know a little bit about it. Yeah. Tell me about, I think there's a sequel coming. You're going to be involved. Just tell me about that documentary, what people should know about it, or any of the documentaries that you think are important to talk about.
Cowspiracy is a great one to watch. It shows the environmental aspects of a non-vegan lifestyle, of a plant-based of an animal product-based lifestyle. So if anyone wants to see that, I'd definitely say watch Cowspiracy. Forks Over Knives is one to show the health benefits of veganism. And if you watch Earthlings, then you see animals being treated the way because of our life choices every day. I just shot Cowspiracy with the sequel. Don't know the final name of it. That was with Kip and Keegan in San Francisco. But I also shot with Louis Sahoyo, who directed The Cove.
Great movie.
And then just did Racing Extinction and had the projections of animals on the Vatican and on Empire State Building. And the Cove is the most winning documentary of all time. And we just shot for the sequel. We wanted to shoot the shot with vegan athletes. So the shot with Alexei Volyov in Russia, who's a world champion arm wrestler and vegan, mostly raw vegan. And he won a gold in the bobsled. The shot with Patrick Baboumian, who's lifted the heaviest weight ever carried by a man. He's also vegan. And I think they've got many other people involved. It's backed by James Cameron, who's a famous vegan, great director. Sort of.
And do they interview you, or are they filming?
We shot around London, and we shot a really nice piece. I'm very excited for it to come out, and it was sort of a culmination of the last 10 years of parkour and the last few years of veganism, and it's sort of an interview on a nice London rooftop, and then the action moving through. Okay. And I think that it's called Game Changers, and that's going to be huge. That's going to be the next Cowspiracy, I feel.
Okay. Are we going to see you in more movies?
It's not important.
It's not important?
No.
Not for you?
No.
Okay.
Not in my life.
Okay. Because when we first spoke a few years ago, it was a route you were thinking about.
Yeah, never say never, but life's a way more crazy movie than
It's true.
than
Have you been to LA? Have you spent time there?
Yeah, I've been to LA. I like LA. It's more for the mountains and the ocean, so close to each other.
Right.
And the vegan restaurants. It's a special place. Yeah, it could almost pin you down. If I didn't get that flight back to London, you'd end up staying there for a long time.
You would. Okay. And more documentaries for you as well?
In terms of what?
Like you were going to be in them or film them?
I mean, we shot that one. We shot the sequel to Cowspiracy on vegan athletes. What it is like we said with the veganism, medium is the message. People just watching a film on veganism and seeing some skinny doctor saying you should eat more apples. People will see that and they're not really want to relate. But when you show them, a strong alpha male character, as the characters throughout the film will be, in a documentary way, you're showing them living their lifestyle, powerful, happy, content.
It's kind of silly that it takes that to get people to know.
Yeah, but we're more receptive to that than we think we realise. We think we can listen to facts and that will change us, but it's the source of those,
Yeah, it's narratives too. That's why
narratives.
we pick into movies like The Cove. It's like, because it wasn't just about what happened, it was about people's experiences, like going to tape it and stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think of The Cove?
I haven't watched it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he gave me a signed copy, but I haven't. No, I'm vegan. I'm not supporting those industries, but yeah, in time I'll watch it.
Okay. Oh, which industry? What, the fish industry, or?
Yeah, I mean that's what it's about, right? It's a dolphin. He told me it's like super like MI5, like James Bond.
It's just weird. I mean, again, it's like a lot of it happens in Japan, and Japan. I love Japan. I spent time there when I was younger, but it is this weird microcosm of islands up in this weird area, and they end up having these strange cultures, and so there's a place in Japan where you can go and watch a dolphin show, and you can eat dolphin while you're watching the dolphin show, and it's just this whole weird disconnect where you're like, massive. Okay, that seems weird to us, but for them it's not weird, and just the whole thing.
That's worrying. There's like blank. Like how can they be so disconnected? Is that?
Oh, well, it's weird because like the dolphin is almost like your guy's gateway drug, because it's like the one animal where people are like, wow, it's got the human head, so it's like, whoa, what's going on here? And so it's
towards veganism and that, because you're like, they're killing dolphins. Everyone is angry at the dolphin killers.
Yeah, it's funny though how people decide that certain animals are okay and certain animals aren't. So we've started doing Meatless Mondays at our house in honor of you, Timothy Shieff.
Oh, thank you.
So and I'm enjoying it.
For the animals.
I'm enjoying it, and funny enough, I've been moving a lot more lately. Okay, mostly probably because of Ito Portal and just listening to him, and I just started trying things, and I think I got caught up in this.
He's an inspiring guy.
He's an inspiring guy, and I got caught up in this martial arts thing, and I loved it for 10 years, but it's like this martial arts kind of tough guy thing where it's okay to hit pads, but you can't dance, and it's okay to like lift weights heavy, but you can't dance, or you can't move around, you can't do handstands, you have to do squats. And I got into this weird, paradigm, and so now I'm changing it up, but I'm also finding some of my diet choices changing, and I just don't try to eat, a lot of heavy red meats and things like that. So, things are kind of changing.
There's a relation between like the loose, freeing choices in movement and that, and then your diet as well to relate. I guess when you eat like heavy meats, you can do the stiff movements and everything is all in alignment. But when you eat the fruits and vegetables more, you're a lot lighter and you want to move and play, and it's more color. The colors maybe, when we take mushrooms or smoke weed or DMT, it affects our consciousness, but we don't realize that, and that's like an intake of some chemical. When you eat fruit, bananas, apples, grapes, that's affecting us in a more subtle way. It might not be as crazy conscience chaining, but subtly we're making other choices and things.
Have you read some of these books about like the gut and how it's got a lot of intelligence?
I've heard of that it's got as much intelligence as the brain.
Yeah, I'm starting to think more about that, because the gut's giving you all these subtle signals all the time, not just based on what you eat, but a lot of other things.
We've got a sweet tooth for fruit. We like bright colours. Fruit's the brightest colour. We're made of 70% water, whatever. Fruit's the same. It's a relationship there.
You mentioned psychedelics. When's your ayahuasca ceremony
not happened yet.
No?
No.
And
I've not needed it thus far.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, I say that, but I'm sure everyone that's done it would say everyone needs ayahuasca. I would like to try it.
Ayahuasca is like veganism. Once you do it once, you tell everybody to do it, and then you kind of like, okay, then
it will happen.
They'll find it. But you'll find it when you need it. That's the beautiful thing about it. UFC. I was very surprised to hear that you enjoy the UFC. Obviously, I've been a fan for a long time. I've trained jiu-jitsu for a long time, and I just, when I started seeing you posting videos about the UFC, I was like, wow,
I'm huge into it.
Thank you for joining us. And I was just wondering why did you get interested in it? What do you find fascinating about it? Have you ever considered training, or is it more of just a visual appreciation?
It's the athletes. It's a floating feather. I'm fascinated by the athletes in UFC. And the way UFC is done, it's sort of boxing for a new age, so it's really fast, quick YouTube videos out. They do the embeddeds leading up to the fights, so you get to see them. I love again, it's the narrative, right? If you were to just watch the fights, when I began watching it on and off, I'd just see the fights. But when I start to see the narratives and the stories and what's going on behind the scenes and how these guys train, how they stay motivated, how they focus on some people focus on movement, some people do jiu-jitsu and all these art forms behind the scenes, it fascinated me.
To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to londonreelacademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media, log in and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Reel, my webinars, and all of our premium content, all located over at londonreelacademy.com. So click on the link below, you'll be directed there, and you can watch the rest of this fascinating interview, and I'll see you there.
Once you start to see past the blood and you start to see the art form